Welcome to Time to Press Pause, a podcast for CEOs by CEOs. I'm your host, Ellen Williams, CEO of The Salient Strategist. And today I'm speaking with Ben Renshaw. 26 years ago, Ben founded Ben Renshaw Ltd. He is a well-known speaker with signature keynotes, including Leading with Purpose and Performance with Purpose. As an executive coach, his clients include Choice Hotels, Heinz, KPMG, and Unilever, to name a few. He is also a best-selling author of 6 books. The most recent title, How to Be a CEO, was published in 2023. Welcome, Ben. It's so great to have you here on Time to Press Pause. I'm really pleased that you were able to join us. I've been reading your book, and it's really excited to meet you in person.
Oh, fantastic, Ellen. Look, thank you, and I appreciate the time, and I love the idea around time to press pause because it's hugely meaningful in my own life.
I'm really glad to hear that because that's what we're here to talk about. So we're going to jump right in and looking forward to you sharing a time when you realized you needed to press pause. So please talk about how you identified that it was time to press pause and then what you did during that time and the results.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the identification was exhaustion. And I remember a time where, look, I had my own business. I was global, traveling the world. I had 3 young children, and anybody asked me how I was, and my response was exhausted.
Mm.
And it reached the point where I was just tired of being tired. But I looked around my life. I didn't want to change it. I didn't want to change my family. I didn't want to change my career. I didn't want to change the conditions of my life. So I realized I had to change myself because, if you're not wanting to change external factors, then you need to really dig deep within. Now, I've always had a thing where every year I take a theme to look at to really activate and drive my own personal and professional development. And so I kind of utilized this, wake up call just around exhaustion to go, right, okay, how do I want to be? And what do I think I need? Now, it's always challenging for me because of the work I do, in the field of executive development. I really, really have to take my own medicine. And that always starts for me with, I think many of us and many people show up as what I describe as human doings, and they forget that they're human beings. So, my starting point always is to come back to a place to recognize we're human beings and to bring the humanity back into our lives, because I feel otherwise we can become incredibly mechanistic. We get very, very transactional, absolutely driven by doing and, the tasks and look, I love achievement and I love getting stuff done. It's a fantastic feeling, but I recognize there's a price that can be accompanied that.
Sure. I mean, CEOs have a lot of responsibilities and they're juggling many different things. So I'm happy to hear that you realized your exhaustion was something that needed your attention. It's not always specifically something within a business. Sometimes it's just that we need a break.
Yeah, and I think it's not even just a break, it's a reorientation. So, so what I thought as a consequence of that experience, and I really stepped back and I reflected upon where I was, where I wanted to be, what was the gap and what needed to happen. And I recognized a fundamental ingredient was energy.
Mm.
I mean, energy is everything. When you have it, it's great. When you don't, it's really, really not a good place to be.
Yeah, hard to get
So,
through a day without any energy.
so as a result of that experience, I stepped back and I paused and I really did some deep reflection about where I got my energy from, what energized me and what de-energized me. And so just to bring that to life, a couple of examples. So what on a practical note was exercise. Yeah. So it was a time again where I was busy on the road, And I would come up with every reason not to exercise. Now, I clearly know, I absolutely could correlate, when I exercised, I had more energy than the days I didn't. But I would come up with every excuse. I was too tired, which is always a great one. You're too tired to exercise. You haven't got enough time. It's too hot. It's too cold. I mean, you name it, every excuse. So I just thought, I'm going to take the excuses off the table and I'm going to exercise every day, non-negotiable. And so I started small. I'm a massive believer in just incremental steps, not, trying to do too much. But a mantra I live and breathe by is progress, not perfection. So I would just like, look, I'm going to just start. I'll quit procrastinating, just start and start small and just built up. And this is probably about 15 years ago now. And I've exercised every day since then.
Wow.
And I don't push it. I don't overdo it, but I just keep a nice regular rhythm. COVID had a massive impact on me on that as well, because obviously then we were kind of locked away. So I got into a habit of playing racket sports each day. I love tennis. I'm in London. I'm fortunate. I've got a club about 8 minutes from me. And I've really, really maintained that. I thought, well, actually, the social benefit, the mental psychological benefit, the physical benefit of, say, a game of tennis, it was exponential, just an exponential impact to have some fun, connect with others, be competitive, exercise, just phenomenal. So I've kind of built that in, but I'd already had the hard wiring of exercise every day, and that would have a real big impact on energy. So that
That's
was.
amazing. That sounds incredible, and it sounds like very beneficial on many levels. So, with all the things you were doing that caused exhaustion, what fell off your plate in order to give you the time to do all the exercise?
I think that, well, it's not really. So for me, when I look at time and prioritization, it's never about time. Time is just a symptom. It's always about intent and clarity. So, once you get really clear about something, then you make choices. Everything is a choice. So I just chose to get up earlier, build an exercise into my schedule, and then it just becomes a habit. So it's very straightforward for me that. So now, I will just get up earlier, or I will build it in at the end of the day, and but it's a non-negotiable. And I think when you build in those non-negotiables, they just don't move. And I think one of the things with high performers is that, most of the high performers I know, very goal orientated, very disciplined, very focused. So that's easy for me. That's, it's just a non-issue. I don't even think about it. And so it's very hard for me to comprehend, when people struggle with, like, you want to do something, you do it. But that's my wiring. That's how I am. I think then a few other elements. So another critical ingredient for me was about who I spent time with. And again, because obviously, yeah, your time, your energy, your life is so precious. And I always remember I actually once coached a CEO, a fantastic woman, and she used to describe the kind of energy vampires. These were people that just sucked the life
Mm-hmm.
out of her. And it's challenging because particularly if you're in a CEO role, everybody wants a bit of you. And so, the ability then to be present, be visible, give that time to people, because 1 or 2 minutes in your presence genuinely can have a lifetime impact on people. It is massive. It's totally, kind of the impact ratio of a time with a CEO is exponential. So you have to be highly sensitized to that. So as a consequence of that, I've become very, very intentional, very deliberate about who I spend my time with, what that means, what that looks like, the conversations I have, what I say yes to, what I say no to. And again, you really got to orchestrate that so you're not leaving anything to chance, because that just becomes high risk then, again, in terms of the impact on your energy and your well-being.
I love that. The fact that everything's a choice. That is a great lesson. Sometimes it's a hard lesson. Not everything feels like a choice, but it truly is. And I also appreciate that you didn't have a strict schedule. I've definitely wavered back and forth times in my life where exercise was a priority, and it should, I guess, always be a priority. But there was always oh, I have to get up at 5:30 and exercise, and if I don't, then I just don't have any other time in my day. So I appreciate that it didn't have to be a strict schedule, that these were choices, but they had flexibility.
Yeah, and look, and I think what's important is to understand your own personal preference. Everybody's very individual, and what gets the best out of some doesn't work for others. So it's really fun, obviously, really understanding your own rhythm and your own patterns. But I think just and that's where building in that pause. And what I've done as well since that, and that would be my third point, would be around daily pause. So, I've always meditated, for example. That's just the practice of mindfulness for me. I've done that for 40 years. I'm a total novice. I still consider myself, beginner's mind, and it's but what I've learned is you often hear, oh, you need to do 20 minutes twice a day. Well, I never got anywhere close to that. And rather than just use that as an excuse, then, oh well, I just won't meditate or this or that. I've just built in a routine of 6 minutes a day. And I don't know, for me, I find 6 minutes works really well. I kind of built it up from a minute a day to 2 minutes, and I'm at 6 minutes a day. And I just do that every day. And again, I just build that into my routine. But I absolutely can tell, the benefit of that daily pause and just clear my mind and focus. Again, it just has exponential benefits on the day. So for me, these are the habits that I've really cultivated and developed in terms of my daily exercise, which really, really fuels my energy. The people that I spend my time with, again, just very intentional, which really creates that connection. And then thirdly, that daily pause, which really allows me much, much better mental acuity and clarity out of having that space.
So you've given us two pauses. You've given us this great big one during your time when you identified you were exhausted and you need to make a change. It's time to step back, and you evaluated all the elements you just overviewed for us. And then you've got these little daily pauses that help you level set on a daily basis. I think that's wonderful. So with the overcome of your exhaustion and the focus on being mindful and how you're spending your time, what was the outcome from prior to when you were exhausted to the way your life is going now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think what I experience now is just, a lot more stability, a lot more consistency with all of that. My energy, I mean, I manage that in a very different way. I'm very proactive with it. I can anticipate, I understand it. I mean, now, having said that, I am in a slightly different life circumstance where my children are older. So therefore, the impact of that, and I get that, when you've got young children and you're not sleeping and then you're traveling as well and you're jet lagged. And I mean, obviously, sleep is incredibly precious, and I still have not mastered sleep. So that is an area for me where so that's why I have not used that as an example, because, I still don't, I haven't got the right rhythm of sleep yet. And I think just after years and years of being on the road and getting impacted with that, my sleep cycle, it's still not where it needs to be. So, but yeah, so overall, though, just much, much more consistency, stability, and the ability to bounce back a lot quicker now.
Mm.
So I think that bounce ability is really key in terms of coming back with that renewal. And again, just actually, when I think about it, like in the past, I used to really, really hang out for my vacation and for my holiday. It'd be like, I'd be just wait till I get to Christmas, then wait till I get to Easter, then wait
Mm,
till I get to the summer. I don't have any of that now. And it's just not present for me. There's no real distinction for me between my life and then a vacation. It's not, I don't, I don't have a big need for vacation. I enjoy vacation, but it's not like I'm hanging out for a vacation. So that would be another significant change from that.
that is a significant change. I am looking forward to taking your advice and hopefully one day being in your shoes because I definitely look forward to vacation. Bounceability. I think that's going to be my new favorite word.
Definitely that bounce back, which ties in with the grit and the resilience. But I like that idea of, coming back in a better place than where you were.
Wow, you've really been able to achieve a lot from your ability to press pause, from that acknowledgement that it was something you really needed to do. So I would like to ask you, what advice do you have for the listeners as far as how they can identify when it's time to press pause? Certainly, if they're exhausted, that's a red flag, but are there other ways to identify when it might be time to take that step back?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, a lot of my work is to do with purpose and to have a very, very clear articulation of your own sense of purpose, your raison d'etre, your why. So the advice I would have is threefold. When I look at purpose, I break purpose down into three key areas to focus on. So number one is energy, number two is meaning, and number three is impact. So I think that ways to kind of really, when you're looking at pressing pause, I've talked about energy. So I think that's, energy management is vital. And there are four lenses to look through for energy management: physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual. So, for me, it's about really ensuring you're looking after your physical energy, your emotional energy, your mental energy, psychological energy, and spiritual energy, which very much for me has to do with things like inspiration and your values. So, energy, meaning. This for me is absolutely vital. Press pause to really understand what is meaningful for you. Where do you get meaning from in your work? So, as an example, the idea of retirement is a total joke for me. It's like, if you love what you do, why would you ever want to stop doing what you love? I mean, I have no concept of retirement. And I coach, many CEOs who, when I start working with them, they're literally waiting to retire.
Hmm.
I remember one CEO, 50 years old, really miserable in his role. And I said, "What's your best bet for happiness?" And he just said, "Retirement, 10 more years of misery, and then watch me, I'll have a great life." This is
Hmm.
crazy. This isn't, madness. So, it's really challenging people to understand where they get their meaning from. So what we then did was, I really held up that lens for him. And what he recognized, actually, there were multiple ways that he derived tremendous meaning, from his work and his life. So we just landscaped everything, as a father, as a partner, with friends, community, and then obviously as CEO, as a board member in the community, with investors, shareholders, colleagues, customers, really defining what is successful for him, what was really meaning, what was the difference he wanted to make. And then that leads to the third area, which is about impact. And really, what is that value? What is that impact? What difference do you want to make in the world? And as a CEO, it's critical to be very, very closely connected to that, because the risk of being, pulled from pillar to post, everybody wants something of you. Your ability to be very clear where you get your meaning from, that will sustain you. So for me, the advice is be clear about energy, meaning, and impact. Have a plan. You need a plan to drive, because if you don't have a plan, then just stuff will happen to you. So have a plan to progress those, along with obviously the running of an organization. And I just think you'll be in a better place.
Fascinating. One of the things you said, of course, everything you said was on point, and thank you so much for sharing all that. I found listening to you that a lot of times pressing pause, taking that step back is to catch your breath, is to really push back against maybe some overwhelm, a lot of information, in your case, exhaustion. But what I heard you say here as well was when you take the time to press pause, it gives you an opportunity to see things through a new lens, to think differently. And I think that's something that hasn't come out in some of the stories we've heard. And I appreciate that you've brought all this wealth of knowledge and somewhat different way to look at what you can achieve when you press pause. So thank you.
And it's lovely to speak with you, and I wish you all the best going forward as you press a daily pause just to re-energize and refocus every day.
I will, starting today.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for listening to this episode of Time to Press Pause. To learn more about Ben Renshaw, go to benrenshaw.com. To learn more about me, go to thesalientstrategist.com. And be sure to join us again wherever you listen to your podcasts.